Rise and shine. It is a beautiful Wednesday morning here in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, and you're welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
From Abuja, good morning. I'm Maokwe Ogun-Yusuf.
Well, right, it was actually a very interesting day, busy day in the nation's capital, Abuja. It looked like Nigerians from different parts of the nation and even the world converged on the nation's capital for that national honors, a total of 449. It was 447 at first and then 450. But essentially, hundreds of Nigerians were honored at that event by the president. And, you know, you had different national honors being conferred on prominent Nigerians from, you know, politicians, those who have represented Nigeria and are representing Nigeria, you know, in foreign organizations, bilateral and multilateral organizations, even politicians, entertainers. I mean, you saw entertainers there being honored as well. You had some of the, you know, tech guys and women also being honored as well. And for a lot of people, this is going to definitely be reward for hard work, for Nigerians who have put the country on the map, and as well as for Nigerians, or rather friends of Nigeria, as they were put. I know that we don't see this every day. It looks like this might even be the last of its kind for this administration. But for the president, this is meant to, well, encourage people as well, the 200 million Nigerians, to also strive to do what they can for Nigeria. I know there's been different angles to the national honors videos online, you know, speaking about the reactions of some people while collecting the awards and all of that. But I think the big picture will be naturally to encourage Nigerians that indeed there is reward, there should be reward for, you know, your labor, as it were, labor to make Nigeria a great nation, labor to better the lives of people around you. I think it was heartwarming to see some of those deserving Nigerians get the honors. I mean, this is something that happened in Abuja. Yes, I mean, our names are not on that list, but I'd like to congratulate those whose names made that list of national honors. Mark.
Well, you know, it is certainly, we should start by congratulating those who have made this list, this prestigious list. And I think that we all can one day aspire, you know, that maybe one day, who knows, who knows, just maybe you might be getting an award too. But beyond that, we know that before now, the list used to be characterized by controversy. And I know that one of the things that the Buhari administration struggled to do was de-escalate the use of the national honors. And so I cannot remember in the 7 years of the Buhari administration, it's now in its 8th year, if it had used the national honors. It's used it rather sparingly. In fact, I think it has relied more on the National Productivity Awards. And then also the Integrity Awards, which is usually given around when they're celebrating the Anti-Corruption Week, something that the ICPC puts together, which are stories that are quite inspiring. So I'm still a little befuddled as to what precisely has influenced the president to decide to give this national honors this time around. But hey, I mean, it is his prerogative. It is the president's prerogative to be able to give honors. The question is, did he give to those whom are deserving? I mean, looking at the visuals on television right now, I think that majority of people, this list is, you know, has been largely, will I say, applauded, especially when you look at two of the women who have received the highest honors, two of the highest honors in the land, the GCON, Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala of the World Trade Organization now, and also Amina Mohammed also getting the GCON there. And there were a lot of other, you know, commendable Nigerians who got their honors. But then there has always been question before now as to whether those who are serving public offices should be given honors. It seems that it comes with the office. So for instance, the president, immediately he gets into office, is conferred with the honor of GCFR. The vice president also gets his own honors as well. So do the the Chief Justice of Nigeria and also the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Senate President, whom we all saw getting their honors yesterday. But there have been questions as to shouldn't we leave these honors until we have seen how well they performed in office before we eventually give it to them? That continues to be a talking point amongst Nigerians. And it's not just about this category. It's not just about these leaders. It's also about a number of other leaders. For instance, governors. A number of governors who also received the awards yesterday. 7 ministers. Some of them also received the awards yesterday. It's not to say that people cannot do things in office, that immediately you see it and you say, oh, the way this person has conducted this particular exercise or the manner in which the person has gone about managing a certain situation, for instance, maybe in the middle of war or in the middle of an emergency situation, or as we did have during COVID, where we had a big emergency, world emergency situation, as a matter of fact, that you cannot say, oh, while someone is still serving, that people can get their flowers, especially if they have, seen the country through great tribulation or have been inspiring in a very, beautiful way. But there continues to, be that controversy as to whether or not when people are still serving and are yet to complete their tenures, whether or not they should be getting honors. But, that aside, I hating to put the dampener on it, while that conversation continues, it was certainly good to see deserving people yesterday get their flowers given by no less than the federal government of Nigeria. Even though I can tell you, Kayode, what you did not see behind the scenes was that the residents of Abuja had a great price to pay. The traffic within the city yesterday was something else. I've never seen that sort of traffic in the 6 years I have lived here in the Federal Capital Territory as a result of all of the convergence of those who came to the FCT and also coming to celebrate with those who had gotten the honors. I think that we need, as an administration in the FCT, to put mechanisms in place where we know that we're expecting visitors from outside of the city. There needs to be mechanisms in place, not just to put up signs and directions, which we need to improve upon it within the city, but also to put in place very well thought out traffic management systems so that the residents of the city are not wondering what is going on, what has suddenly fallen upon our city. And, but yeah, it was certainly good to know that many people got their flowers given by the federal government of Nigeria. Kaide.
Indeed. There you are thinking you could escape Lagos traffic. Well, turns out it was waiting for you in Abuja. But, some honors you get based on the prerogative of, is it the National Awards Committee or the president? Some you enroll for it. An example is, the honors you get from going to university, studying in a tertiary institution. And sadly, a lot of students that have enrolled some 4 years or even more are still miles away from that honor or those honors, as the case may be. I'm talking about the ASUU strike in 2 days now, or 2 days from now. It'll be exactly 8 months since ASUU went on strike. There's been a lot of back and forth, committees, meetings, tripartite arrangements, memorandum of understanding, memorandum of action. The list is literally endless. And I mean, you see that meeting again with the members of the House of Representatives. And it looks like this meeting well, it's like a glimmer of hope, that meeting that we've seen, added to the court ruling asking ASUU to return to court, recall the industrial court's ruling, then the Court of Appeal saying, well, we need to see that you have returned to schools. There needs to be some sort of compliance before we even look at your case. As I say, you can't build nothing, or rather something on nothing. So we took a look around schools, and clearly schools have not complied, or at least the lecturers have not complied. And it looks as though they will need to have some sort of meeting before they eventually decide. I know there had been reports that ASUU had called off the strike. In case you're a student and you were relying on those reports, well, ASUU has not officially decided. It looks like we know where ASUU will swing on this one based on, first, the court's ruling, the meeting with the National Assembly, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the statement from the ASUU president saying, well, it looks like there's light at the end of the tunnel and maybe this might be resolved soon. But at least we'll have to keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best, such that you yourself as a student can get your honor right? The honors you deserve after passing through years of tertiary education. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Perhaps we'll get something today, tomorrow, and eventually something definitive for us to give to you. But for now, there's nothing definitive on that one, talking about the ASUU strike. In the meantime, we'll take a look at some of the dailies for you this morning. I don't know if Mark Well wants to weigh in again on the ASUU issue. I know it's been lingering for a while. Perhaps we'll see it on the front page as well. So let's take a quick one. I'll be back for the look at the dailies. Well, we'll start off with the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Takes departure from, some of the things we have discussed. And this is what you find on the front page. How Nigerian doctors, other foreigners, are exploited in UK. Says according to a BBC report. It's a page 5 read. And I think this has been in the news for quite some time now. At least people individually reporting these issues. But this is, an aggregation of those, and questions about the recent trend we have seen, what that means really, not just for the nation, but the individuals who have chosen to at least seek greener pasture, as they say. Is the grass really greener on the other side? Well, this report should give an insight into that, it would seem, but clearly raises lots of questions about, labor laws, whether they are being adhered to strictly. Does that mean the fact that you choose to be or to move to another country, you shouldn't get the very best of the laws, or at least what the laws stipulate? Lots of questions being raised. What are the options available, really? How much can they fight for their rights compared to if they were in Nigeria? Lots of questions, and I do hope that the authorities handle this as well as they ought to. Now, when I say authorities, this crosses border and even involves the multilaterals as well. So that's what you find on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. How Nigerian doctors, other foreigners, are exploited in UK. And pictures, of course, show President Buhari from the National Honours event yesterday. And you see, at conferment of national honours on 440 Nigerians, there you go, 440? The figures keep changing, 447, 449, 450, now 440. But, take a look at what the president says. I will hand over a Nigeria free of insecurity. Buhari, Oni Okowa, Adebutu Olanipekun, Adadevo, and others honored. That's what you find there. And just at the bottom strip, you see this one: reps begin consideration of 20.51 trillion naira proposed expenditure for 2023. That's right, 20.51. We don't know what it will be slashed to or how this will be handled, but we'll keep our eyes on it, definitely. That one going on in the National Assembly. A couple of other stories, but let me just mention this one. It's been trending. Wike appoints 14,000 advisors, 359 liaison officers. That got a lot of people talking. 14,000. Goodness. That's the Nigerian Tribune for you.
Well, if you look at Daily Trust, they have this one: national honors, not for decoration. So in case you just thought that's just bragging rights, well, reality check. National honors, not for decoration, Buhari tells recipients. You also have this story: how our Ds were selected. Recognition, a call to duty. That's from the Senate President, Ahmed Lawan. The story is on page 3 of the paper. You also see a number of stories here. Flood, 500 dead, 1.4 million affected in 31 states. Abuja, that's according to the federal government. So that's one state plus Abuja. The federal government is saying that 146,734 hectares of farmlands, 89,348 houses damaged. That's according to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. You also see more states to be affected from NIMET because the rains haven't stopped. Whilst people were going around yesterday celebrating, the rains, the skies opened up again and poured out a bounty of rain. I mean, it would seem was trying to bless aggressively those who were celebrating their national honors. You also see this story here 14 days after Tinubu Obi Kwankwanso yet to commence campaigns. The story is on page 72. Well, they say all they have to be is in compliance with INEC's timelines. They do not have to follow it strictly. They just didn't have to start ahead of the timelines. But let us see, just what happens, because we understand that Obi is set to constitute his own presidential campaign council today. And you also heard this one from Kayode, highlighting it earlier. ASUU to decide on strike tomorrow. Rumors were rife yesterday that ASUU had called off their strike or were about to, but they eventually confirmed that there is a process to doing that, even though they had hinted earlier that there was light at the end of the tunnel following the intervention of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. But it wasn't just going to happen like that. There is a process that it must follow if they're going to call off the strike. And we bet that as soon as that happens, as soon as, students are allowed to come back to campuses and get their honors plus, because yes, it shouldn't just be honors that they get, Kayode. It has to be honors plus. They really do go through quite a bit nowadays to be able to earn that degree, which they eventually get. I just also say that whilst we're also drawing attention to the fact that there was a Court of Appeal ruling saying that ASUU should go back to work, we understand the lawyers to ASUU say that ASUU is yet to receive the details of the court judgment. So maybe that's what is stalling ASUU's return to work according to the court order. But if the court order is yet to be delivered to ASUU, perhaps the interventions which is currently happening from the Speaker's corner will be able to bring up an end to the impasse. Page 4 might give you details of that. You also see this: cholera kills 233 in 31 states as 173 die of Lassa fever. So it's a mix. Usually when it's rainy season, we know we can expect cholera, even though, it's a preventable illness and we should be ashamed that this is happening year in, year out. But what is interesting is this mix with Lassa fever, which is supposed to be something reserved for the dry season, but we're already beginning to see right in the middle of the rainy season. But let's leave it there for Daily Trust newspapers. Quite a heavy package this morning. I guess all of the congratulations for those who got their awards yesterday will also be featuring on the inside of the paper. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust.
Well, the honors continue, or at least reporting of the honors continue. The Guardian has this one: honors Buhari decorates Lawan Okonjo-Iweala, UN scribe, others. I mean, it just has the other angles you have seen. But take a look at this one. You may have not heard about this one. Lawyer describes inclusion of education minister in honors list as scandalous. This ties to the ASUU strike, I imagine. So that's another angle. You might want to consider that as well. And just at the bottom strip of the paper, you see, stop blame games, campaign with Buhari's records. PDP tells ruling party it is a season, right? So you hear these things time and again, but this is the new angle to it. The PDP asking the APC to campaign with President Buhari's record. So we'll delve into all of that in the coming moments on the program this morning. You definitely don't want to miss all of that. Staying with the issues, definitely. And just one more: how military corrupt NNPC officials, others steal Nigeria's oil wealth, by Clark. So there's been some, uncoverings lately, and the question a lot of Nigerians are asking is, so who is responsible? Yes, we have discovered oil wells, we have discovered vessels, we have discovered this and that, but who is responsible? And I think that's the overwhelming question that deserves an answer. So this is perhaps an insight into this. We'll listen to what government has to say. The NNPC has been, of course, fingered as well as security operative. So we'll wait, I guess. Let's leave it there for The Guardian.
Well, New Telegraph has this, a physical copy I have in my hand. Reps probes federal government's disbursements to state, local governments since 2012. This is significant that they're doing this since 2012 because 2012 was the last time we also witnessed a flood of this magnitude in Nigeria. And as a result, state got resources from the federal government for that. But maybe that's not what they're looking at. NSCDC recruitment exercise also. So they also are probing NSCDC's recruitment exercise. Ask SPDC, that's Shell Petroleum Development Company, SNEPCO, to provide lists of subsidiaries on capital allowance. The story is on pages 6 and 8 for you. You also have the story, National Honors Buhari Garlands Lawan, Ariwola, Okonjo-Iweala, 446 others. Gbajabiamila, Amina Mohammed, Adeshino, Burna Boy, Adichie make list as federal government rejects over 4,000 applications for recognition. Awards for our leaders well deserved. That's according to the PDP and governors. So it was interesting to see yesterday that the awards really cut across. It didn't matter party affiliation. Some of the leaders in the opposition party also got awarded. One of them is the vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. So it does look like there was an attempt to be fair and to ensure that all categories of people got their flowers yesterday. Never mind social media and some of the moments in which they caught the president looking at what some of the awardees whom he was, giving their flowers. I'm sure he was wondering, people this young, or I don't know what precisely informed the president's stare, but hey, it did come with quite a bit of drama yesterday. You also see this, President vows to hand over insecurity-free Nigeria to next generation of leaders. Shall we say an amen to that? On top of the nameplate, IMF sees Nigeria's inflation easing. That is also there. Lekki Ekpe Airport, federal government issues approval letter to Lagos State government. So something to share on page 8 of the paper. A number of other stories just at the bottom there. Clark advocates judicial inquiry into oil theft, accuses security agencies, IOCs, others of complicity. And court video confession, how I killed a tiger by Chidinma. So the court case is certainly moving on quite swiftly, and the papers are following that story for you. Alleged involuntary manslaughter, medical doctor arraigned. The story is on page 31. Let's leave it there for New Telegraph.
This Nigeria, on a final note, has this one. Buhari vows to end insecurity before May the 29th. So that's actually from the National Honors event. So it gives you another side to this. You see the pictures as well. But another side to that IMF report on Nigeria's inflation says IMF downgrades Nigeria's 2022 growth prospects. Now, we've seen some of these projections time and again, but Nigeria has proven, or at least outdone those those progressions or projections. It looks like English is doing a fast one on me this morning. So we'll see how 2022 pans out with these projections yet again. Just finally, you see, 2023, INEC deletes 2.7 million double registrants. Says PVC's ready for collection November. That's next month, just a few days from now. But 2.7 million, we'll be taking a look at that also in the coming moments. Because, what does this mean for political parties? If you take 2.7 million out of the 12 million that have been so far registered lately, that's huge. That's just 9.3 million left. So that's this Nigeria for you. There's other stories definitely on the front page, but we'll leave it there for a look at the front pages this morning and get into the meat of the show. You do not want to miss this. So as always, get comfortable, grab a cup of water, tea, coffee, whatever works for you. I'll be back in a moment. Stay with us.
Well, we did mention while we're doing the paper review that 14 days after Tinubu, Obi, Kwankwanso yet to commence campaigns. That's them. The PDP has started. 2 days ago, they kicked off with a massive rally in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital. You should have seen the stadium, I'm sure, while we're having this conversation. Perhaps pictures might pop up. For some people, they say it was a sign to show that, you know, they are set to go. But for those who are looking beneath the surface, they know that all might not be well within the party. Also, if you go through the dailies today, you might see a hint to that. So let me ask our guest here this morning, Mr. Kola Ologbondiyan, who is the PDP presidential, or one of the PDP presidential campaign spokesperson and a former national publicity secretary of the party. If all that glitters is gold, that was quite a showing you had in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, for, I'm sure it was for good measure, maybe to send a message home. But, you know, did that confidence really resonate within members of the PDP that indeed all maybe can go on without the inclusion of these 5 governors who are still, you know, sending a protest letter to your party?
Thank you very much, Maupe. Let me start by saying that going to the South-South for the People's Democratic Party was predicated on the fact that the South-South remains the bedrock of the People's Democratic Party. I think that's the first messaging I want to give out. Now, going into the issue of the discomforting disagreement within the People's Democratic Party, I can assure that efforts are still ongoing. There are rooms, many rooms in our party. And our party is a party of inclusivity. And we have always had that demonstrated. However, there are issues. But these issues are being resolved. And like I love to say always, I believe that at the end of it all, we will go into the election as one united, indivisible political party.
Did that affect the mood in any way of the start of the campaigns on Monday?
Well, to be honest with you, like you read in the dailies, yes, there are concerns about having everybody on board. There are concerns, and the concerns exist in the party. However, as a party that is most organized in the country, as a party with the highest experience about politicking in our nation, we cannot stay akimbo. We must begin the process. But we are confident in the belief that those who are not in the train now will join the train.
Well, 2 times now, your party has suffered defeat at the national level. In 2015, when it was ousted, and also in 2019. And there are questions as to what precisely you're hoping will be different this time around, considering that we're not just talking about 2 major political parties. There is now a credible third force. And this force, for a number of people, would have been a veritable looking for the right word now, let's say a veritable addition and veritable force, assuming it were within the ranks of the PDP. But now that that has now been, would I say, taken away from you, or is now assumed a life of its own, how is the PDP managing what could be, potentially be a threat to what is now been known as the establishment parties?
Well, Maupe, let me tell you something about political parties in Nigeria, particularly in this Fourth Republic since 1999. If you leave your party and go to another party, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can in totality affect strongly the fortunes of that previous party in which you belong to. I take the PDP, for example. Most of the people, and I love the word establishment party, most of the people in the PDP are traditional PDP members. And they function in a manner that you will later come to understand that no matter what happens, they will stay and stick with their political party. So looking at that and coming from that background, I believe, and you can see this as manifest, even in the zone that the candidate you are talking about hails from, you discover that the traditional politicians have not left their party. notwithstanding the disagreement. And as such, where new parties will always come up, they have always come up in the past. But I have an understanding, and it's a global understanding, that in every country that you go to, there are always two major political parties, which give the people an opportunity of choice at every election. And these major parties are the one seasonally, maybe every 4 years, maybe every 5 years, come to talk to the people and say, this is what we have to offer. And the people will decide whether the previous party that was in government was better for them or the alternate party is better. I personally do not believe in this mutation of political parties, that at the end of every election, we're going to spring a new party. That's what has brought us to where we are today in Nigeria. But all well and good, I am confident that the victory of the PDP is certain in the 2023 election.
Do you think that your party missed a golden chance with the way it managed the exit of former Governor Peter Obi?
I do not think that the People's Democratic Party, and I say this as an insider, had the opportunity to even manage the exit. Because what happened, what Governor Peter Obi did, gentleman, yes, was a walk-up. He just took a walk, from the party. So the room for management never existed. And you recall that what transpired was not at the national level of the party, if I can say that, because it was a domestic problem in Anambra State. But I think he felt aggrieved, going by what happened in his state, and left the party. So there was no room, per se, for management of events.
It took a while before he decided on what party to settle on. But even before he moved on to, well, maybe this is crying over spilt milk now, but I mean, I'm just looking at whether when the PDP looks at what is now happening with the candidate of the Labour Party, they ever wonder, how did we miss this? How did we miss the opportunity to be able to galvanize the amount of people whom he has been able to galvanize, or who have now, you know, say, look, on your man, I'm looking for another word now. Yeah, lest I be accused of plagiarism, who are telling him that he is the face of the discontent which they feel with the political system, and who might have been, you know, given the votes to the PDP as a result of just how they felt about how things had been run.
Well, if people feel that, Governor Peter Obi is the face of the discontent that they have with the other parties, it will be funny to me.
Not just discontent, but also a faith in the capacity which you know they think he brings on board.
Because Governor Peter Obi is a part and parcel of the establishment party. He only took a walk over disagreement in his home state, Anambra. So for anybody to come and say, oh, this is a new face, I don't understand it. I truly don't. Because he's a part of the process. He's been governor for 8 years. He's been a political party. He has left a political party for another before he left for this. So for me, I do not talk in the... I do not speak about him in ill manners. And I don't want to be dragged into that. But I'm sure and I'm confident that the 2023 election signposts a victory for the People's Democratic Party candidate, Atiku Abubakar, Waziri Adamawa.
Well, people always have their calculations. For everybody that you speak with, they will certainly have a reference to point to in history, or even maybe even in Nigerian history or even international history, to show why it is their own candidate that will win. I'm not going to start disputing calculations here. What I'm going to talk about is your plan, is the agenda of your party, because it certainly must be selling something to Nigerians. The issue of insecurity has been with us even before your party was ousted in 2015. It contributed largely to it. The issue of economic management is also on board. What's your party hoping to do differently, were it to win the 2023 presidential elections?
Thank you very much, Maupe. Let's take off from the issue of insecurity that you spoke to. And we must accept for a fact that before the People's Democratic Party left office in 2015, that insurgency, which was prevalent in the Northeast, unlike what happened everywhere in the country today, had been fought to the fringes. and also the fringes of the Northeast. And we must also not forget that when this government came in 2015, it declared those who were fighting the war as mercenaries and stopped the arrangement with the previous government.
Did you declare them mercenaries, or we actually hired mercenaries?
Okay, and declared them as well, he declared them mercenaries and declared them that they are not going to work with them and send them out.
No, Mr. Olabodinyo, you cannot declare somebody mercenary. It is either the person is a mercenary or the person is not a mercenary. Did we or did we not hire mercenaries?
But at the end, Maupe,
you're not answering that question.
I will answer. I'm going there. But at the end, what did happen? Insecurity had spread across the federation in various forms, banditry, and all forms of kidnapping came in and had a spread so bad that even to travel from one point to another became a problem. Now, having identified that in the area of insecurity...
No, Mr. Olabodinyo, before you go ahead to identify the issues, I just asked a question. Did we or did we not hire? Because don't forget that...
No, we had to hire fighting equipment. And in hiring fighting equipment, our officers were not trained on the equipment that were being used. And as a result of that, we have to bring people who can use those equipment. What happened thereafter? We had a situation in which, because it appears that the machinery that we're using was at par with what the vandals, the Boko Haram, the whatever had, and they were using against us. They were stolen from the armory of Nigerian army. So we're working at the same, we're fighting the asymmetry war at the same level until the government then had to bring in equipment that can fight. And don't forget that it was these same APC people, when Nigeria went out to go and purchase military hardware, that went around the world and said that we're going to use it to kill opposition. And as a result of that, this was stopped. So, but you must agree with me, Maupe, that before 2015, that the insurgency had been fought to the fringes, unlike what we have later. But having said that, Atiku Abubakar, Waziri Adamawa, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, is driving on reuniting Nigerians. And being a former customs officer, whose responsibility had been to defend the territorial integrity of our nation, he's also saying that when he's elected and sworn in on May 29, 2023, that he will introduce the use of technology to secure our borders and ensure that vandals, bandits don't have the kind of free access that they have in Nigeria today. You also spoke to the issue of economic downturn. You will recall that Atiku Abubakar, as vice president and chairman of the Nigeria Economic Council, fought along with his principal, Olusegun Obasanjo, for debt relief for this country. And when they were leaving office, they had about 65 billion in US dollars in our reserve in 2007. And as such, the glorious days of this nation operated when Atiku Abubakar was the chairman of Nigeria's Economic Council. And they went head hunting for Nigerians across the globe and made Nigeria an attraction to our citizens, wherever they were on the planet Earth. So this is the plan that Atiku is bringing back. This is the plan that Atiku wants to reinvent. And in whichever way you look at it, is in the area of education, he's talking about remodeling our educational system in a manner that we could look at the various stratum of our educational system and see what correction needs to be taken. He has already proposed private-public partnership, even in the area of the economy. He has also said that he's going to introduce a 10 billion stimulus for the non-formal sector of the economy. $10 billion stimulus for the non-formal sector of the economy. The vulcanizers, the tomato sellers, the ordinary Nigerians, because that is the drive of our economy. So these are the plans that Atiku brings to the fore.
Well, let me take this to Lagos now. I understand that Kayode has further questions.
Well, indeed, Mark. Well, thank you very much. And good morning, Mr. Ologbodinyo. About Nigeria's foreign reserves you talked about in 2007. Did you say $60 billion?
Or about 65 billion naira. I can't be accurate.
Okay, because the former Minister of Finance cleared the air on that in a statement saying it was actually $43 billion and not 60 or over 60 that was quoted in times past.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, really, some of the wins that you recorded for your party. And just to be clear, is this the same period which your party has actually apologized for the mistakes it had made and other issues, coming out openly to tell Nigerians, we're sorry for the mistakes we have made? So is that the same period you're asking Nigerians to look back to and vote for your party in the coming elections?
Thank you very much, Kaudi. You recall that it was a leadership office, which is Secondus, in which I served, that made apology. And what did we apologize to Nigerians for? We apologized to Nigerians for allowing APC to have the opportunity to come and ruin the achievements that we have had in this country. That was what we apologized for. There is no denying the fact that ahead of 2015 election, the insurgency had been fought to the fringes of the Northeast. It's a statement of fact. There's no denying the fact that life was far better than what we are witnessing in the last 7 years of the administration of the All Progressives Congress. Whether in the area of economy, whether in the area of safety, in whatever angle of our national life that you look at, life wasn't as difficult as this for the ordinary people. And as such, we believe, and Nigerians out there, Kaudi, who live around you, are saying that if it is possible for the APC to return them to pre-May 29, 2015, that it is welcome. That is how terrible, that's how awful, that's how bad the situation of our nation has been in the last 7 years.
Well, in the words of Mr. Secondus that time, because you say that maybe he apologized for allowing the APC come to power, but these were his words. He said that we apologize to Nigerians that we have made mistakes, we have learned our lessons, and we are ready to begin on a new agenda. He says experience is the best teacher. He also said that it is important to do so because we have learned from our mistakes. And time and again saying that, we actually clearly made mistakes as leaders of this country. So when you say that Nigerians want to go back to pre-2015, are you saying that Nigerians will actually want to go back to those mistakes which your chairman at that time openly came out to apologize for?
Yeah, thank you, Kaudi. The mistakes that we made allowed Nigerians to elect the APC, which has brought our nation to a ruination. And as such, having come out to apologize and having learned our lessons, in spite and with due respect to the decision of the Supreme Court, the 2019 election was in the favor of the People's Democratic Party. And the ordinary Nigerian out there, around you, they will tell you that that was it. But having said that, life in 2015 was far better in every ramification. Prior to 2015, did we have, under the PDP, a whole session being lost for students? Did we have a situation in which people could not travel from one point to the other, from Abuja to Lokoja or from Abuja to Kaduna? Did we have a situation in which living conditions became unbearable for the ordinary Nigerians? Did we have a situation in which purchasing power became so low that people are asking for just anything? We never had that.
Well, Mr. Ologbodinyo,
we never had that.
I mean, with the benefit of hindsight, and the figures are out there. Yes, ASUU went on strike during your time. I recall that was what brought up the whole agreements, the needs assessments, former President Yaradua then transitioned to former President Goodluck Jonathan. It was actually as a result of strikes upon strikes that they had to find a way to appease the lecturers. And I mean, I can go on and on. The Boko Haram, the scourge of Boko Haram at that time. I mean, local governments and areas were being dominated by the terrorists. But so we don't keep going back and forth. Ultimately, you have a few days to campaign. But I want to ask this question because, Mr. Peter Obi's name came up in recent times. And, he had a conversation recently where he, responded to the talk about him not having structures. And he said, the truth is, having governors or members of the National Assembly, which are called structure in any case, is just a way to funnel monies into campaigning. And I'd like you to clear the air on that, because now the thinking is that, that's essentially how you raise money for campaigns, for elections. You use the powers of the governors, monies which are not budgeted for, by the way, powers of members of the National Assembly to siphon monies for your campaigns. Is that what is happening right now?
Howdy, as a fact that we do not control the National Assembly, and as a fact that we cannot use the National Assembly because it's not within our purview to raise money to run our campaign. Campaigns are run through support of members of the party and willing Nigerians who believe in the sustainability, who believe in the capacity of our party to conduct the affairs of governance in the best of ways. And as such, Nigerians will willfully support our campaign as People's Democratic Party. I do not know what obtains in other parties, but there are stories in public space about how the APC intends to use the part of 20.8 trillion that it has budgeted for 2023 as slush fund for campaign. I do not know how far that is true, but that is in public space. But for us in the People's Democratic Party, we are relying on our members. We are relying on support from good-willing Nigerians to support our candidate ahead of the election.
Let me quickly ask you this about petrol subsidy. Part of what is currently crippling our revenue, even though it is dwindling, is this niggling issue of petrol subsidy. What does your party hope to do differently this time around? Is it something you've thought about?
Yeah, it's something, first subsidy you recall, under the President Goodluck Jonathan administration. Because people say that we should don't talk about the past, like how they just say. Yes, in areas where we achieve or where we had intention, we had a will to achieve, and the APC came and told all sorts and all forms of lies to Nigerians, we must speak to them. You recall that under the President Goodluck Jonathan administration, Goodluck Jonathan was set to remove subsidy on oil. It was the same APC people who ganged up and said, no, you want to impoverish Nigerians. And you will recall that even President General Muhammadu Buhari, as he was then known, declared that whoever speaks to first subsidy is a scam.
So,
and this change...
I'm not going to dispute anything.
Okay, thank you. So now let me proceed further.
So
our candidate,
yeah.
Atiku Abubakar, has already said he will introduce a phased removal of subsidy. He has stated that clearly, that he would work on it, because if you holistically remove subsidy, the suffering of Nigerians will be worse than what we are experiencing now. So in line with the thinking of majority of Nigerians, what Atiku Abubakar intends to do is to face withdrawal of subsidy. And I also need to add that Atiku Abubakar has said he's going to block all the leakages in government. Do
you think that is certainly significantly different from how President Goodluck Jonathan went about it?
But I think it's significantly different because what Governor Goodluck Jonathan would have done was to remove subsidy.
And that would have had implications.
And that would have had implications. But he is saying, Atiku Abubakar is saying that he will do a phased withdrawal. Let's put it in a straight...
Do you think we have the time for that? For that phased withdrawal?
I believe we will have the time because, number one, Atiku is expecting to... He said he will reduce recurrent to 45%, recurrent expenditure in the national budget to 45%. And that is going to block all leakages where government funds are being siphoned. And I think that will generate more funding. And I think, I believe that Atiku Abubakar has the body language, he has the culture of attracting Nigerians back home to come and invest in their country. So I think that with all this, that we'll have funding.
Well, I certainly know that we'll continue to keep in touch with you as the campaigns continue and proceed. And as much as possible, we hope to keep it issues-based right here at Channels Television. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise this morning.
Thank you very much. And I wish to speak to our opponents and tell them to concentrate on issues, because Atiku Abubakar has made his campaign issue-based.
Mr. Kala Olagbondiyan is one of the spokesperson, Atiku Ukowa Presidential Campaign Council, and former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise this morning. Well, we'll take a break at this point. We'll be back to still continue talking politics, but this time from another perspective. Please stay with us.
Well, thank you for staying with us. Let's cross over to the camp of the ruling All Progressives Congress this morning. We're joined by Ambassador Jerry Ugokoye, who is a former permanent representative of Nigeria to the United Nations offices in Vienna, Austria, also a member of the APC. Joins us via Zoom on the program this morning. Good morning, Ambassador Ugokoye. It's good to see you on the program. Well, yeah, the
Good
APC...
morning. My pleasure.
Right. The APC, your party, yet to flag off its campaign, unlike the PDP, did that on Monday, yet to, of course, inaugurate the campaign council, yet to unveil the manifesto for your presidential candidate. But in spite of that, we've seen some activities within your party. But the conversation we just had with the presidential spokesperson of PDP talked about how Nigerians actually want to go back to pre-2015 before your party came into power. And there's always been that question about what your party is going to campaign with. Would you be campaigning with the performance of this administration over the past over 7 years, or you're going to fashion something new? Just to get your response to that, how's your party planning to go about this?
Well, thank you so very much. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. Now, I listened very carefully to Kola, my good friend, and I heard all he said. I just want to draw the attention of Nigerians to what is really coming up. It's not about party or about, pre-2015. Now, we are talking about employing what you will call a CEO for a company. Now, when you want to employ a CEO, there are several things you do. You, as a news anchor, if you will, if you want to be employed by maybe a bigger news anchor like CNN, what CNN is going to ask you is to bring your CV. And when you bring your CV, they are looking at where you had worked before, how well you did, and then from there, they can say, oh, if we pick this guy, if we employ him, he's going to, improve what we're doing. Now, APC is one of the parties that is very careful. There's an Igbo saying that it is not he who started first that ends first. Yes, PDP had done they had kicked off their campaign. But I want to remind you that APC is a very respectful party. As you know, the Monday they kicked off their campaign was the birthday of Prophet Muhammad. So APC thought it was this is the best thing to do, to give credit to Muslims. That is like their own Christmas day. And that is the day you want to bring them out to launch your campaign. That means you're not sensitive. That's number one. Number two, when we look at who will govern Nigeria, when it is convenient for them, they talk about parties. When it is convenient for them, they talk about other issues. But for me, what is convenient for me is who I am making the CEO of my company. And we are talking about Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Now, if they go back to pre-2015, let us even go pre-2015. What was Lagos like many years before? I have always told somebody, yesterday I was cracking a joke with a friend of mine. I said, if Bola Ahmed Tinubu was governor of Lagos State, before Abuja was chosen, maybe we would not have chosen Abuja as a capital. We would have remained in Lagos because there wouldn't have been any need to move capital from Lagos to Abuja. We would have used that money to develop the entire nation. What am I saying? I'm saying that Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who APC says, look, we are presenting him to the people of Nigeria. This is who we want to make the CEO of the company called Nigeria. And let us look at what he has done when he had an opportunity.
Right.
Because all these three people we're talking about have had one opportunity or another.
Right. So essentially, you're saying that basically this campaign is on his merits, not on the merit of the performance of this government in the over 7 years that it's been in power, but on the merit of the candidates, not minding what your party has done in the past 7 years.
What I'm saying is that when it is convenient for you, you turn it around parties. But I'm saying, whether a party or not, if you choose the wrong CEO, your company will not do well, even if it was doing much better before now. So the point I'm making, let us look at who we are making the president of this country. Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu. You are in Lagos, and you know what Lagos was pre-Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu. I lived in Lagos then myself. This was a city that had, was merely surviving a few millions of naira, from FEC and all that stuff, whatever money that comes from the federal government, that's what, Lagos was all about. But this guy moved Lagos. Today, Lagos is the biggest economy in Africa. Can you imagine if that is done for Nigeria and Nigeria becomes the greatest economy in the world? Would you and I be where we are today? That's the most important thing, as far as I'm concerned.
Period.
That's what we will be talking about.
Right. So which period are you reviewing? The period he was governor from 1999 to 2007, or 2007 to 2015, or 2015 to late? Which period are you talking about?
When he was governor.
Okay, because
when he was governor, that's when he laid the foundation for whatever is happening in Lagos today.
Okay, so you can give the credit of maybe 2007 and upwards to other governors, Governor Fashola, Governor Ambode, and Governor Sanwo-Olu.
And what am I also saying? A good manager is somebody who looks at people and says, look, these guys, they can do things well, right, and he employs them. Now, let's look at who Tinubu had made. Can you think of, today, a vice president? Can you think of today the Fashola you're talking about? Can you, think about Sanwo-Olu? This is somebody who knows the right people to bring in to do the work.
Ambassador, so we can focus on the other issues. I think this talk about, who made who, I think has been on for a while, and the questions usually will be, what does making another person mean? Does it mean, the person fathered or mothered the person send you to school, or, foot your bills and all of that?
Making.
So I don't want us to dwell on that, so we can stay on the issues.
It is not about making. Okay. It is about assembling a team.
All right. Okay.
Presidency or governorship is about teamwork. It's not about an individual work.
All right.
And if you are not a good leader, you cannot assemble a good team. What I'm saying is that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is someone who can assemble the best team you can think of to rework Nigeria. That's what we need.
All right. So let's talk about some of the issues that have come up, some of the statements, the promises, while we await the manifesto. And just at that launch of the women team, the women campaign team, which, by the way, was a Monday, which was on the birthday that you talked about. So again, questions about whether or not you're being fair to the other party. You also held an event on that same Monday. We saw the wife of the vice president, your presidential candidate, and others attending on that same day. But he made some statements that I'd like you to just maybe clear up for a lot of Nigerians. One of them was when he was talking about people who want a change of government, saying that they should shut up. And for a lot of people, That's a red flag, saying, does that mean you're not open to, opposing views in a democracy such as this? And you raise fears for a lot of people thinking, wait a minute, does that mean we are not free to support whoever we want to support? If we open our mouths to say we're not for you, then are we in danger?
Definitely not. That is what democracy is all about. Democracy is for all of us to look at where we can align ourselves in the best interest of the people. In the best interest of the people. And I say this, APC is one of the parties that have taken the interest of Nigerians. Nigeria, we always talk about the North and the South. Let me give you one typical example. The presidential candidate of the APC comes from the South, right? The vice presidential candidate of the APC comes from the North. The party chairman of the APC comes from the North. The DG of the campaign comes from the North. Now, let's move to APC, a PDP. Their presidential candidate comes from the North. National chairman comes from the North. Then let's go to the third party, which is the Labour Party. Guess what? The presidential candidate comes from the South. The chairman of the party comes from the South. The DG of the campaign comes from the South. How have we been fair to other parts of Nigeria, even with what the Constitution has tried to make us do, to make sure that we are fair, equitable, and just to all parts of Nigeria? So if you look at APC, you find that this is a party that thinks ahead, a party that knows that, look, we want to be fair, we want to be equitable, we want to be just to every part of Nigeria. And that is why I believe that anybody who wants anything great for Nigeria, great, I underline, great for Nigeria, should vote for Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Ambassador, you've not answered the question which I asked about the statement he made regarding those who want a change of government. And that could mean the PDP, Labour Party, even Nigerian supporters of this party, saying they should shut up. What does that mean exactly? Because Nigerians listened and a lot of them wondering, how should we receive this?
Well, what most times what people say on the podium, is always misinterpreted. He didn't. When you say somebody shut up, what does that mean? You're not telling them not to speak. Sometimes these things are said in a jovial manner, just to make people laugh, to make people, have fun. When you're campaigning, it's all about fun. It's all about exciting the people so that they can, go out there and work their butts off so that the party can win. It's not about being, how would I put it? It's not about insulting anybody. Unless you're not talking about Bola Ahmed Tinubu. If it is Bola Ahmed Tinubu that I know that you're talking about, you will know that he is humble. You will know that he will not insult anybody unwittingly. That I know. But when things are said in a funny manner, in a joking manner, and then you take it and elevate it to something else, that's where I have problems with things like that.
Well, the words were clear, really. Shut up your mouth to those who want a change of government, saying that I would like to be polite, but tell them, shut up your mouth. It's clear. When I tell someone shut up, it's clear what you mean by saying shut up. And I'm asking this, it's quite important.
Body language is, many times, body language is more revealing than even the word of mouth.
Oh dear. So
when somebody is telling you shut up and laughing at you, that's probably just joking with you.
And I think it's important to situate.
Shut up and is laughing, and you're laughing together and you're holding hands.
Well, shut up means shut up. Surely there are other ways to maybe make jocular statements. There are other ways to make people laugh. We've seen comedians at your campaigns. We've seen entertainers. I just want you to situate this, pardon me, is the fact that we've seen the signing of a peace accord, and there have been talks about watching utterances and not to incite the people. So for the followers, and that's why it's good to lay it bare, for the followers listening, and they may have thought, okay, that is the position, we need to shut others up. What would you be telling them so we can set the record straight?
No, Bola Ahmed Tinubu never wants anybody to shut the other up. He is a Democrat, a full Democrat. People are free to talk, just like you have brought me out to talk. You have brought Kola, my friend, to talk, and you're bringing many more others to talk. We are free to talk. All I am saying, and all most of us are saying, look at the three of them. Look at their history. Look at where they are coming from. And if we want to be honest with ourselves, none of them have comes, anywhere close to Bola Ahmed Tinubu in terms of managing people, in terms of managing the economy of a nation like Nigeria, in terms of assembling a team, which is more important. A typical example that I always give to people, I lived in America for a long time. And when I was in America, at that time, it was Ronald Reagan who was the president of the United States of America. Now, Ronald Reagan assembled the best brains in the world, if you will, and America was great. And today, when people want to refer to Ronald Reagan, they will say that America will be great again. Meanwhile, what they are saying is that one of the best we have had since that country became independent, if you will, was Ronald Reagan. That's the same thing we want Tinubu to do for Nigeria, because what he did for Lagos, if he does it for Nigeria, then I can raise my hand and say, thank you, God, because this is what we are looking for. Assembling the right team, assembling the best team, irrespective of what part of Nigeria, what part of, what corner of Nigeria they come from. But the fact that they can make Nigeria great is what we're looking for. Right. And that is what we want to achieve.
So let's talk about how to achieve
get away
this.
From semantics.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how to achieve that now that we've gotten that out of the way. One of the big issues now, which we talked about in the previous conversation, is, the oil sector. Talks of subsidy, yes. And the recent one, which is oil theft. The current government has been speaking about it, even though we've not entirely been made aware of who is responsible for the oil theft. I recall that your candidate, pre-2015 or thereabouts, accused then government, Jonathan and his friends, of stealing crude oil to the tune of hundreds of thousands of barrels. And still at that event, he talked about, how this government came into power when crude oil production was at 400,000 barrels a day or thereabouts, which in fact was not true, because I think at that time, May 2015, when your party came to power, now this is from OPEC, by the way, it was at 1.6 million barrels per day, if you can just see that highlighted. And yes, then the next month, which is June 2015, it was at 1.7 million barrels per day. So not 400,000, as your candidate said. But in terms of getting to the root of this, your candidate has been quite silent on this crude oil theft. I mean, we've heard the Labour Party candidate speaking about it, and, he spoke about some of the issues he thought was at play here. But for your candidate, in terms of sanitizing this sector, what is the thinking? What is the plan?
Well, the plan is simple. My candidate knows that this cabal will be broken, and it has. As you know, when Tom Polo was being engaged by this government, there were whoos and cries all over the place. And why should you engage such a person, to try to unravel what is happening in the creeks with our oil? But today, you and I have seen that is yielding fruits. We have discovered where this oil, theft is taking place. The most important thing is that this has been happening for years, and this government has been able to get to the root of it. That's the most important. And from now on, we can assure you that when Bola Ahmed Tinubu becomes the president, he is going to follow from where this government stops in terms of making sure that our oil is not stolen anymore. Because this, as you know, is a cabal, is a group of people. This has been happening for years. While I was serving, as Nigeria's permanent resident representative in OPEC, this same thing was being told, when I got into some of the meetings, I was told that, man, your oil is being stolen, in France. They told me basically that ships were carrying stolen oil from Nigeria and were selling them in Paris and in other parts of France. But because, nobody had actually gone to the root of it, it was like, hey, man, I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, they're saying that, but we can't see any practical, aspect of it. But give credit to this government.
Right.
They were determined to make sure that this stops.
Right.
And now we have seen what is happening. ASUU Ahmed Bola Tinubu is aware of the fact that the government was trying to get something done to make sure that this is ended. And it was not in his own part to begin to prejudge what was going to happen. And by the grace of God, we have been able to unravel that mystery. And believe it or not, this will stop.
Whether or not we've been able to fully unravel it is another thing entirely, because no names have been mentioned.
It's one step
nobody
at a time.
knows. That's why I said fully unravel it. That's another point. But just going back to the statement he made then in 2015, saying that former President Goodluck Jonathan and all were responsible for stealing 400,000 barrels per day. President Jonathan is no more in power. Is that still true then? Would you still say he's responsible, as your candidate claimed at that time, for the theft?
Well, let me say this. Now that we have unraveled the fact that oil is being stolen, I can assure you that over time, those people who have been apprehended will tell us who is stealing the oil. So let us leave that to them. If I begin to say who stole or who didn't steal, like I said, I was Nigeria's permanent representative to OPEC. I didn't know anybody who was stealing because I didn't have what it took to discover these things. But now that our government has been able to do this, let's give them time and encourage them, both from the media and from individual and corporate bodies, to make sure that this is unraveled to the end. Let's not discourage them by, certain statements or what had happened in the past. Between you and me, let us look forward. Let us now hold them accountable. What I expect you to do is to move forward and make sure that, look, from now on, your channel will follow everything that is happening to make sure that there is nobody who will hide anything. So whoever were the people who are doing this, we will get to them. Or whoever that did it in the past, we will get to them. So that's what I expect us to do.
Well, as you would have seen, Ambassador, you would have seen that, a lot of these stories were broken exclusively by channels, television, and following through. But this is about holding to account.
I've watched. Yes.
Right. I'm
only encouraging you to do more.
Oh, we appreciate that. We definitely will do that. But this is about holding our leaders accountable to their words. If, years ago he claimed that former President Goodluck Jonathan was responsible for stealing crude oil, we need to be sure that, first, was there proof? Was it just the usual, politicking, the usual rhetoric, because it was during campaigning at that time? So we know what to expect. So, yes, it's important to look forward, but we also need to hold our leaders accountable to what they say.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
By the time we unravel it, then we will know who to hold responsible and accountable.
Okay,
that's all I'm saying.
Does that point to the fact that there was maybe no proof for him to have said that at that time?
I wouldn't say that because I didn't tell him what to say. You understand what I'm saying? Maybe he got information somewhere. Okay. So the point I'm making is that whether the information he got was the right information or not, by the time we unravel this, by the time we get to the end of it, that is when you're going to say whether that information was right or wrong. But in the middle of it, going around and talking about it will not help the situation. Let us give the government time and encouragement to get to the end of it. At the end of it, they will publish a report of who did what. starting from when it started, 2015 or even beyond? That's what I'm asking about.
Right.
But for now, let us see how we will do well for Nigeria. Let us see how we can, retool Nigeria. Let us see how we can reboot Nigeria. That's what we need. Each time I travel and come back, I say to myself, if all of us put our hands together, this country will be the best country in the world. And I still believe in it. Like I said to people, I have friends who have been calling me, Jerry, why are you going back to Nigeria? As you know, I lived and worked in the United States for a very long time. And the day I took a decision in 1999 that I was coming back to Nigeria to become a member of the House of Representatives, Nigerians there were laughing at me. When they held a party for me, they said to me, why, for what reason would you go back to Nigeria? For what reason would you? I say, look, Nigeria is my country, and I will.
Oh dear.
Do what to be. That's why I'm here.
Okay, Ambassador Gokwe, we're winding down now on the conversation, and
Yes.
I mean, by the way, is there a date now? Is there anything definitive about start of campaign? More importantly, release of the manifesto so Nigerians can see the plan your party has in store. Is there anything definitive regarding the date for that yet?
I believe that starting from today, you're going to be getting the information because, as you know, Monday was public holidays. Yesterday, almost everybody was in the International Conference Center. The 400 and something people were giving awards, so many people were busy either receiving awards or hosting those who received awards. So, starting from today, we're going fully back to work. After talking to you, I'll just hit the road again, back to Abuja, and then all of us will get back to the office and get working. And I can assure you, within the next few days, all the information that you are looking for will be supplied to you and everyone else.
Well, clearly,
and, like I said, we are ready.
Right.
APC is ready. And we will do whatever it takes to make Nigeria great.
Clearly, the coming days will be very interesting, and we'll be, touching base from time to time with your party and the candidate as well, so that Nigerians can hear what he has in store. But we'd like to thank you so much in the meantime. We'll be speaking with Ambassador Jerry Gokwe, who is a former permanent representative of Nigeria to the United Nations offices in Vienna, Austria, also a member of the APC. He's also been a member of the National Assembly, by the way, prominent with some bills. Thank you so much, Ambassador Gokwe, for your time.
I thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to Nigerians on behalf of the APC. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
All right. So that's it with this leg, but we have more coming for you in just a moment. Please stay with us.
We're still talking politics right here on Sunrise Daily, but we're talking to, shall I say, another party right now. Chris Nwokobia Jr. is spokesperson of the Big Tent of the National Coalition Front, Third Force Movement of the Labour Party. Quite a mouthful. I would have just thought Labour Party would have done it and, you know, we will be done. Why is your title so complicated? Is there more to the Labour Party than we're saying?
The Labour Party is deeply entrenched in the philosophy for a new day, a new nation and a new Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And you have a whole lot of coalitions involved in the movement for a new Nigeria. You have the National Coalition Front, the NCF. You have several other groups, the Obedient Movement, and you have a massive assemblage of Nigerians who are desirous to take back their country for good. That's why the Labour Party is a massive tent of Nigerians who are interested in a new deal for our country, Nigerians who are interested in taking back our country for good, Nigerians who are interested in ensuring that things are done differently.
So when you talk about these three different groups of people, what I imagine is that there are three different independent groups that have come together under the Labour Party. Is that correct?
There are several groups. Okay. There are several groups, monstrous, across the country. If you've been following what has been happening before 28th of August, before 28th of September, across our country, the sweltering harmattan, the massive assemblage of our people, the stepping out of millions of people who solidarize with the candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Gregory Obi, for a new day, you will understand how deep the expectations of the Nigerian people are. They are monstrous movements. You have the Rescue Nigeria movement. You have the National Coalition Front that is headed by Professor Pat Utomi, by my brother, Che Olawale Oguniyi. You have several other people who are with us in the movement for a new day, and the movement for a new tendency, and the movement for a new Nigeria, and epitomized, as it were, by Peter Gregory Obi and Ahmed Yusuf Dati. These are exceptional human beings who believe that we must take back our country for good, we must rework our nation for effectiveness, and we must reposition our country for that which is the expectations of all black people across the world.
Interesting. Oh, well, I'm looking at, these are pictures from some of the marches that have held, on behalf of the candidate of the Labour Party. And we're going to be seeing perhaps more of this much later. Some of them are a little independent of...
These are tidbits.
Yeah, a little independent of the, let's say, the formal rallies being put together by the Labour Party itself. But I'm looking at, and in fairness to your candidate, he does seem to be getting some positive reviews from international organizations. Those who have conducted polls tend to put him ahead, even though there is also a huge cache of voters who are undecided, and for a number of people that is significant. That's where the let's say the genie lies, so to speak. And I'm looking at also the latest review done by no less than The Economist magazine. They did a rather candid, will I say, conversational candid op-ed on his candidacy, on the candidacy of the Labour Party flag bearer. And I'm looking at some of the things that were said in that particular op-ed. He talked about how he does look like he could have stand a chance in the 2023 elections, but they worry about what's going to happen, say, in the National Assembly, and how that is going to translate into convincing voters to vote for Labour Party here, but vote for other parties here. Are you looking at that sort of mix, for instance?
Well, it's happening already across the country. The mantra, we have even seen posters of candidates of the PDP, as it were, at some level, putting their pictures and putting Peter Obi's picture for president. We have seen candidates of the APC who put their pictures and then they put Peter Obi's picture for president. The point is that we're at that point in our history where things must be done differently. Mokwe, like you noted, all the polls on the election so far, about 5-6 polls, have put Peter Gregory Obi ahead of others. And the reasons are profound. We live in a country where between the APC, the party that just representative just spoke before me, and then the PDP, Kola Olobodiyan spoke on their behalf. Between them, has been 23 years of lackluster watch over our country. Between them, has been 71 months of ASUU strike. Between them is 23 years of constructing the second Niger Bridge. It's been 23 years of Lagos-Ibadan Express Road. It's been 23 years of failed promises. Between them is a checkered economy. And so the Siamese twins are not attractive to Nigerians. The Leviathan and the Behemoth, that's the APC and the PDP. Nigerians are not enamored by their message. You listen to the people of the APC after 7 years, they're still telling you of a new beginning.
Yeah, but if you were
you
to
listen to the PDP, they're telling you that 16 years of PDP was better than the 7 years of the APC. And you ask yourself, why are we where we are?
Is it really...
And what should we do differently?
Is it really about these parties? Because let's not forget that 2019, just 4 years ago, the candidate of the Labour Party was the vice presidential candidate...
I'll tell you what happened.
Let me finish. To the front runner of the PDP,
yes.
who is currently running again as a front runner of the party in 2023. A few years ago as well, before 2015, even you were an active member of the All Progressives Congress. You also pushed for the candidacy of President Muhammadu Buhari.
2015,
yeah, so is it really about the parties, so to speak, or will it be about the individuals who have run these parties or had the opportunity to run government?
Mokwe, very profoundly captured. 2023 will be a republic for the candidate, the person who connects with the Nigerian people, the person who shows competency, capacity, commitment, and passion for a new day. Simply so. But before now, you'll ask yourself, when some of us campaigned for President Muhammadu Buhari in 2014, 2015, the issues like Kayode asked the APC representative, the issues of oil theft, failed economy, corruption, and the likes were in the front burner. And we thought about a Nigeria that works for all Nigerians. I was the DG of one of the campaign organs of President Muhammadu Buhari, and we talked about change. I was DG Change Ambassador of Nigeria. And then that message for change did resonate. Nigerians opted for the APC over the APC, over the PDP. And then in the course of the first 4 years, it was obvious.
I want to believe that that was not deliberate when you say opted for the APC over the APC, because those who say...
Deliberately so, because they are Siamese twins. They are Siamese twins.
Okay.
You can actually call the APC the PDP and vice versa, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Those who should pretend over the APC were in the PDP, and those who should pretend over the PDP today were in the APC.
Yeah,
so we're looking for a new day.
Yeah, what is the difference? Because your candidate was also a part of the PDP.
The reason he joined the PDP, don't forget that for 8 years, he could have opted for the PDP or the APC at some point whilst he was governor. Don't forget that he was also impeached for not inflating budgets. You know, so if he wanted to be part of the mainstream, at that point, he would have just simply done that. But what he did was, after he finished as governor of Anambra State, he thought of something that was remarkable. He said, having served my people in Anambra State, the next challenge is to take this record to the center. And then he decided to join the PDP to see how he could help re-engineer our country. And in 2019, he was the vice presidential candidate of the PDP. As you and I talk, the simple reason he left the PDP was because he wasn't ready to buy votes. And then he has talked about the need for a nation that is beyond everything accountable, a nation that is responsible and responsive to the people, a nation that understands that the Nigerian people's money must be spent creditably. this nation must be frugal. You don't borrow money to spend on consumption. And that's one of the manifestos of Peter Gregory Obi. So as you and I talk today, what is preponderantly important and that resonates on the streets is that Nigerians are asking for a new deal. That's why you see students, young people, old and young, on the streets saying that they want a new deal. And Peter Gregory Obi resonates across every tendency. It's gone beyond an Anambra man to a pan-Nigerian candidate. Across the geopolitical zones, there's one person who, without putting a naira, can pull out Nigerians on the streets. And that's exactly what's happening. Nigerians believe that it's a new day, it's a new deal, it's a new tendency, and they want a president that they can trust come 2023.
Well, you are no rookie in politics, and you know, I mean, at least you've witnessed quite a number of elections. I'm not sure how actively involved you have been in many of them, but at least I know that in 2014, 2015, you would have witnessed a little more closely, a little more upfront, perhaps just how the polls work. And you know that the odds are not exactly stacked in favor of your candidate. You know, this thing that they always talk about, structure, even though, yes, I know that, you know, young people keep saying that we are the structure and we're going to, you know, show ourselves forth come the elections. But you know that there is a reason why they talk about structures especially at the grassroots level. What exactly do you see as the hurdles for your candidate with regards to some of the challenges that I'm also looking at the Economist article, for instance, and there are questions as to how he's going to market himself in at least 10 of the northern states, for instance.
Well, let me say this clearly. You know, third, quite very profoundly, I'm not a rookie in politics. I've been, as a youth leader, I was involved in the Hope 93 campaigns. And in 2011, I pioneered this movement of young people in politics. I was the youngest to run for president in 2011. In 2014, 2015, I was DG Change Ambassadors of Nigeria. So I understand largely, with all sense of humility, what's happening. And then when I hear people talk about structures, Mokwe, let me tell you that in politics, the structures are sizably and reasonably the people. Now, the reason the two major parties, the Siamese twins, the Behemoth and the Leviathan, will talk about the Labour Party not having the structures is because they imagine that they will have people at the local government level who will give directives as to how to vote. Get it clear. Now, what we have is very different. What we have is a nation that has suffered from well over almost 23 years of consistent perfidy, deceit, and lies. And so there's a difference here. Nigerians are asking for a new deal. And let me tell you, Labour Party, as it were, is an amalgam of several unions. Most people do not know. Labour Party has the NUC, NLC, and the TUC, and several other groups. There is no local government in this country that does not have a teacher. There's no town that does not have a teacher. A teacher is a member of the NUT, National Union of Teachers. National Union of Teachers belongs to the NLC. So Labour, as it were, in actuality, has the largest structures in this country. That's the truth.
But that,
now, let me
for a number of them,
because it's important for Nigerians to understand. No,
yes.
No, the Labour Party
some members of Labour Party,
Labour Union is part of the Labour Party.
So some members of the Labour unions are partisan. They belong to political parties.
But let me
stopping them from being members of other political parties.
Because it's important as we talk. Beyond that, that's one arm, the NUC, TUC. You have some of them who are partisan. Then you have the entire Nigerian studentry, NANS. You have the preponderant leadership of these several organizations who are embedded in the obedient movement. And their question is simply about the need for a new day. Mark my use of words, the new day. We have had for so long leaders who are self-conceited, selfish, egocentric, individualistic, for whom leadership is about me, myself, and I. And Nigerians are saying, no, the time to think about the generality of us, the generality of the space is now. And that's what the candidacy of Peter Gregory Obi resonates. Okay. That's what it speaks to.
Okay.
And as you and I talk, what is fundamentally important, Mokwe, is that the only candidate, as it were, in this country who can, without doling cash to buy marchers or people who rally in this country today, because when I listen to them, I think that they're a bit taken aback by the reality and the urgency of now. Look at what's happened in Lesotho. A party founded in March won the presidential election. Look at what happened in Zambia. I'm coming.
Lesotho,
I know you want to say something,
small,
but I'm coming.
I mean, it's a small country.
You see where I'm coming.
Far smaller than Lagos.
You see the anatomy of my debate. You will understand where I'm coming from. Now, in Zambia, a party and a candidate that was called social media president won the general election. In Kenya, against the 5 leading families, against the Odinga family, against the Kenyatta family, against the several behemoths in Kenya, a man who was, castigated as being effective and effectual only on the social media, won the presidential election. Now we're all human beings. The urgency of now across Africa is for a new day and a new tendency, a new republic and a new passion in leadership. And that's what Peter Gregory Obi epitomizes.
Okay, let me bring you this question, because you've just brought up the issue of unions, the fact that Labour Party is made up of unions. And one of the issues, because a number of people are wondering what's going to happen, what exactly is he, and I think even he too has acknowledged as much that if you were to look across board at the manifestos of all of the political parties and perhaps their candidates, you will find stark similarities amongst or across the manifestos. That what exactly stands him out is the issue of trust. But the question,
commitment,
yes.
Commitment to issues and what he had done as a governor in Anambra State. And I'll quickly reel out a few.
So let me finish. But the issue for a number of Nigerians, I mean, apart from the issue of trust, is also when he gets to office, how he's going to handle things that have proved rather thorny. For instance, the issue of subsidies, which the labor unions before now had stood staunchly against in terms of how they think it should be removed, if it's going to be removed at all. Is he currently having a conversation on this matter? If he is, what is the direction the conversation is taking?
With the Labour Party and the candidacy of Peter Gregory, it will be a lot easier to handle. And the Labour Party and our candidate are doing a lot of talking on that. But let me say this, that Nigerians who are listening will know that if the APC was sincere to what is said on paper in 2015, they would have been able to remove the subsidy, because there was a monstrous and a massive support that saw President Muhammadu Buhari to power. Unfortunately, those who benefit, who profiteer from what is predominantly a scam, the subsidy regime, did not want it removed. And so when his health issues came up, and then he began to lose that monstrous credibility, it became difficult for him to remove. That's exactly why he thinks that the next administration, and I'm sure that he's thinking that way, because he knows that Peter Gregory Obi will win the next election, and he's going to come to power with a monstrous goodwill. It will be easier for us to explain to Nigerians why we cannot continue to pay 18 billion naira per day. It will be easier for Peter Gregory Obi to tell Nigerians that we have to look, like he said in his manifesto, we have to look the way of strategic rejigging of our economy and take our economy away from oil to massive and monstrous regime that is congruent with the fourth revolution, which is the human capital, And Peter is a leader of man. He's been involved in it. I'll give you a practical instance. That's exactly why I said there's a man who knows it. Look at how they've handled education. Like I said, 71 months of strike. Peter Gregory Obi inherited an Anambra State that was number 26 on education strata. In 4 years, Anambra came to number 1. That was because he put primacy on education. He understands it. With respect to salary and emoluments of civil servants and workers, he left Anambra State not owing a pension or a gratuity. That's commitment to labor.
The model,
and so, as you and I talk,
just a moment. The model I remember in Anambra State was that he returned a lot of the schools back to the missions, and I think he was able to give them funding.
And he gave them funding.
Yeah,
yes.
but the question...
Primacy on education.
Yeah, so, but the question right now is this: for universities, there will be no missions to return them to. The federal government...
He was one of the first few who pioneered state funding of universities such that the Anambra State universities have never been on strike since he left. They've not been without ASUU strike.
Okay.
Because state funds it. That's the commitment he made to education. I think that the time has come for us who understand the reality and the urgency of now. Mokwe, as you and I talk, there was a time about 3-4 months ago when we barely could send kids to school in Abuja because there was threat of, which of course is a continuation of what the APC accused Jonathan's administration of, insecurity. As you and I talk, for 5 years of his watch over Anambra State was adjudged the safest state in Nigeria. And that was because he committed himself to security in Anambra State. It was the IG of police who said that.
Well,
it's not about politics.
You currently know this, the situation of security in the Southeast in general and in Anambra where...
He's not the president now.
Indeed. So, but let me flip this because I understand that Kayode has a question for you.
Well, absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Just to squeeze in a few things before we wind down. Yes, I mean, your candidate seems to be getting all of that support on and off social media. The polls put him ahead, even the latest, editorial we saw from The Economist. But just yesterday as well, the chairman of INEC talked about delisting 2.7 million voters from the recently registered voters out of 12 million. And I mean, it's been said that a lot of people who went out to register did that as a result of perhaps the support for your party, the Labour Party. And I wonder, with 2.7 million deregistered, are you worried?
Kayode, let me say clearly that what is important for us as you and I talk is the fact that there's a fundamental and a formidable effort at following the developments at the level of INEC. We believe that INEC will do what is right, and just. But we are not sleeping. We're not overlooking the realities and the urgency of now. I did say clearly a few weeks ago that if INEC in 2014 had 10 cameras on them, if in 2019, if INEC had 20 cameras on them, in 2023, INEC will have 1,000 cameras on them because the preponderant masses of our country, those who believe that now is the time for a peaceful ballot-based revolution in this country, are watching on INEC. So on the one hand, we're following every details, and on the other hand, we're actually asking for a forensic on these details because we are not ignorant of the fact that beyond the monstrous support of our candidate is the need to ensure that the electoral umpire is free, fair, square, and credible.
Clear as well. I don't know what the Labour Party will be doing, really, to perhaps ask more questions or see what exactly is going on. But while we look to that, the question around your candidate has been, what is his manifesto? And you said that he believes that, it will be a repetition of the same, but Nigerians still want to see at least something they can use as a point of reference. Like, you promised us this, which is what they're using for this current government. But your party, your candidate has spoken...
We already have a manifesto, Kayode.
Right, so where can Nigerians see that?
It's on our website. It's on the Labour Party P2B website. But let me quickly reel out something. We're interested in ensuring that we unite Nigerians. We're interested in ensuring that we rejig the security architecture and ensure that we deploy technology in improving security. We're interested in ensuring that we take Nigeria away from monstrous dependence on oil to human resource development. We're interested in ensuring that beyond the hoopla, we develop commitment to homeland security. We improve on the ratio of the population to the police protection. We're interested in ensuring that homeland security is given primacy, education is given primacy, And above all, which is very important, that we sustain our leadership in the sub-region in terms of contribution and support to the security of the sub-region and indeed our country. But you know, like I noted, that the only candidate who believes monstrously, massively, profusely, and profoundly in what education can do for our country is Peter Gregory Obi. And no nation moves out of poverty, out of disease and despondency without putting proper primacy on education. And so the way for our country to go is to support the candidacy of the man who knows it. And that's Peter Gregory Obi.
Well, we understand that you will be launching your candidate will be launching his presidential campaign council today. That's correct?
That's right.
Okay, so we certainly will be keeping tabs on that, but we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning.
The pleasure is mine,
Chris Nwokobia Jr. is a spokesperson of the Big Tent of the National Coalition Front, third first movement of the Labour Party. Thank you once more for coming on. Well,
God bless Nigeria, Mokwe.
Amen. Well, we've seen quite a number of tweets, but we're afraid that we're totally out of time this beautiful Wednesday morning. Well, hopefully we'll be able to take them, shall I say, with the second team when they eventually come on tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for watching today. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Ejikeze is coming for you, even Olago Jeladele, all of them, they're coming for you. Well, I wash my hands clean of this time around, but thank you so much. It's been a swell time with you. I'm Kayode Kikilu. Have a fantastic day ahead.